I'm gonna throw my grass out the window, crumble up my papers too. I'll give away my speed, 'cause girlie, all I'll ever need is just a little bit of love from you, and we'll be making it natural.
From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where Bidenomics are working so well, I've actually got 3 vagrants sleeping right here under my desk. Good thing they're midgets, I guess. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America and all ships at sea. Welcome to the Blast Radius. So glad you could join us. Here's your Decline of Western Civilization news roundup for the 4th week of April 2024. Dateline Banyuwangi, Indonesia, Monday, 22 April. A Chinese idiot was boiled alive this week after venturing too close to the rim of an active volcano in the effort of procuring a cool selfie. Which is to say, the Darwin Awards exist for a very good reason, ladies and gentlemen. 31-year-old Huang Li Hong was sightseeing with her husband at the Aigen crater, famous the world over for its colorful displays known as Blue Fire, when, according to an account provided by her now former tour guide, she stumbled over her long clothing while walking backward toward the rim of the caldera and, because gravity exists and is just as reliable as human stupidity, proceeded to plunge an estimated 250 feet to a death that, as deaths go, probably wasn't all that pleasant. Personally, I'm with Tyrion Lannister on that one, pardon me. When his prospective executioner asked him how he wants to die, he said, "When I'm 80 in my own bed with a belly full of wine and a girl's mouth on my..." You know the rest of the quote. So, to recap, Ms. Li Hong, or is it Ms. Huang? The Asians need to pick one naming convention and all do it. God damn it, it's freaking confusing trying to keep every country straight. She's wearing clothing that is long enough to be tripped over. She is stepping backward toward the rim of an active volcano that she knows is not protected by a guardrail. They don't believe in guardrails in Indonesia, evidently, and I, for one, respect that. When she knew the result of going over the edge was undoubtedly going to be a gruesome, horrifying death. And I'm just going to throw this out there. On the newer iPhones, isn't it a fairly simple matter to just insert yourself into any photograph you want? You know, I read recently that India leads the world in deaths by attempted selfie. But it seems the Chinese are doing their level best to claim the title for themselves. We will keep you posted as the race develops. Dateline the Metaverse, Tuesday, 23 April. A recent study by the Media Research Council concluded that Facebook directly interfered in a total of 39 elections in the United States since 2008. The MRC report states that Facebook's election meddling began all the way back in 2012. It reached its towering crescendo in 2020, because of course it did, and has, according to the published report, abated somewhat in the years since. Gosh, it's almost like Zuckerberg realizes how badly he got punked and played for a fool. First, he gets talked into paying $400 million for an initiative to expand voting rights, which amounted in practice to, as we know, installing lots of unmonitored ballot drop boxes in the most heavily Democrat precincts in the 6 most hotly contested swing states in the election. Which is why it was the most secure election in history, baby! And then in October, he gets a call from the FBI. Yeah, Mr. Zuckerberg, we just wanted to give you a heads up. The Russians are about to drop a big disinformation project. Something about Hunter Biden and a laptop. They may have even gotten to the New York Post on this one. The Russians are sneaky like that. Anyway, we just wanted to let you know that you'd be doing a very great patriotic service to your country if you helped us slam the lid shut on that story, okay? But hey, don't feel bad, Mark. It happens to the best of us. Hell, would you believe I used to get emails from the son of the deposed king of Swaziland? Dateline London, Wednesday, 24 April. Londoners awoke Wednesday morning to the bizarre and shocking sight of bloody escaped cavalry horses marauding through the streets of the British capital. Talk about a blast from the past. That probably hasn't happened since, like, the Anglo-Saxon period. According to Breitbart News, at least 5 people were injured and numerous cars and horses damaged after the beasts, for reasons still unknown at press time, freaked the fuck out and bolted from their stables at the Hyde Park Barracks. Guys ever heard of a fence? Just asking us all. Some of the spooked horses nearly succeeded in escaping the city entirely, a wish I believe is shared by a good percentage of London's human residents as well, with the animals eventually being captured at distances ranging from 2.5 all the way to 7 miles away from where they made their escape. The army said in a statement, quote, "A number of military working horses became loose during routine exercise this morning. All of the horses have now been recovered and returned to camp. A number of personnel and horses have been injured and are receiving the appropriate medical attention." End quote. Thankfully, the injured humans and equines are all expected to make a full recovery, although the bloodied white horse was arrested by the Metropolitan London Police on hate crime charges for looking too much like a St. George flag. Dateline Edinburgh, Thursday, 25 April. It's not been another good week for our friend Scottish First Minister Humza Yousaf. After sustaining worldwide mockery over his hate crime law that saw 70% of public reports in the first 2 weeks be against himself, our man Humza, that tam o' shanter wearing haggis loving Scotsman that he is, has now seen his Green Party's governing coalition utterly collapse after he fired his whole cabinet because they were about to resign en masse. And who knows, when even your own best friends hate you, maybe that should tell you something about yourself. While Scotland's devolved parliament isn't due for new elections until 2026, our man Humza might get a new election whether he wants one or not, as the Scottish Conservatives have called a vote of no confidence against the government, which would presumably bring the government down if it passed, triggering early elections. Scot Conservative leader Douglas Ross announced the move in the Scottish Parliament, where he called Yousaf, quote, unfit for office. He said, quote, "I am launching a vote of no confidence. He is a failed First Minister. He has failed in the wrong priority interest. He has governed in the SNP's interests and not in Scotland's interest." Our man Humza replied, totally without irony, on a day when he just fired his cabinet before they could quit, that the Conservatives should be ashamed of themselves for, quote, playing political games. And hey, if the boiled-alive Chinese tourist gets a Darwin Award, then it's only fair that our man Humza gets a self-awareness participation ribbon, wouldn't you say? And yes, I'm sure it'll be fine. Dateline Washington, Friday, 26 April. In a meeting of intellectual titans that will surely live in the annals of history. No, I said annals. Vice President Kamala Harris met with Kim Kardashian this week. And for those fans keeping score at home, this is a person who became a celebrity by being the daughter of O.J. Simpson's personal lawyer who appeared in a sex tape, meeting a vice president who gained her political career by climbing a ladder made out of every penis in Sacramento. So yeah, this is actually where we are now, apparently. They met to talk about an issue that is very close to both of their hearts. No, not STD prevention. No, not cosmetic surgery. Prison reform, which seems like a bit of a strange thing to be talking about when Joe Biden's violent criminal illegal aliens are marauding across the countryside from sea to shining sea, but damn it, don't you ever accuse the California cackler of being unable to read the room. Especially when the room is full of child actors who've been hired for the occasion. The point is, Madam Vice President, may I call you Madam Vice President? It might not be the greatest time to be promoting the idea that we should invent more reasons not to put people in prison. I think all things being equal, that the temperature of the country reads something like, yes, we do want prison reform, meaning let's build a whole hell of a lot more of them and make them really damn big. Just like Kim Kardashian's plastic tits. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your Decline of Western Civilization news roundup for the week that was. May it rest in peace. And with that, I toss it over to my illustrious colleague, the one and only your friend and mine, Mr. Caucasian Sasquatch.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Blast Radius, where I really don't have anything to say this particular episode because I am still being sucked into the void of movie making by this heinous production of the Rebel Moon sequel. Now, I don't know if y'all remember, but I actually defended the first installment of this series, and we're going to get into that immediately after we go over a couple of other details. For one thing, we have the FBI has finally decided to do something. So let's jump right on top of that immediately.
Y'all got false narratives out there, and y'all should be ashamed of y'allself. Y'all black. Y'all are black.
We got her.
And y'all sitting up here beating and attacking on a black woman that's in power. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves.
Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves.
To get people to come to our community, to just diss and down our community. Shame on y'all.
Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we got to talk about how the walls are closing in on the corrupt super mayor, Tiffany A. Henyard. And honestly, I'm a bit heartbroken about this because this story has been so good,
Yeah, no, she has been an endless log cow for the past, 2 years? How long ago did I bring it to your attention? What was that? Almost 9 months ago?
It's been, yeah, it came to my attention later than it should have, but yeah, you're probably about right.
When I found out about this, I went and looked up her name and I Googled it and did the whole little background search and everything. And the only thing I could find on her at that point was, apparently she was arrested and convicted for smash and grab robberies on Main Street by breaking into cars and stealing stuff.
That is a fact.
So from that to mayor, that seemed like a really odd transition. How do you say
that is a hell of a career trajectory? I wonder if there's any George Soros money involved.
I don't see how there couldn't be.
enjoyable, so much fun to laugh at. But the fact of the matter is, this level of fraud and corruption can only go on for so long. And while there are reports recently of the FBI raiding the Village Hall, today what we want to talk about is the first step in this process, what I believe to be one of the truest signs that it's all going to crumble in. And that's the fact that Freeman, Tiffany A. Henyard's right-hand man, her lieutenant, and alleged boyfriend by a lot of different people, has been indicted for bankruptcy fraud, which, by the way...
All right, so you remember... Wait, it wasn't you. It was me and Midlife Bro Logic. We were watching one of these board meetings. There is a lawyer on that, not on the board, but present at all the board meetings. This is the guy they're talking about. He's the white guy sitting at her right hand at every single board meeting that's constantly whispering in her ear. He declared bankruptcy and lied through his teeth about everything.
Yep, he sure as hell did.
And he also says he is not employed by the city. He is not employed by the state or the county. He is not employed by Henyard, and he is not employed by anyone. And so he gets bankruptcy according to those standards, when actually he is deriving monetary gain from all of those sources, as I understand it.
He claimed in his bankruptcy filing that his total assets were what, $94.73 or something like that.
And you know how dirty, low down, and despicable you have to be to try to dodge the IRS. I mean, even the Joker don't mess with that one. All right, we're having technical issues.
We don't have technical issues. We're professionals. Oh, does this mean I'm supposed to save us for a few minutes? Should I start? I can start this week in history if you want me to. Let's start this week in history. 22 April 1519, Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés establishes the first ever European settlement in Veracruz, Mexico. 1836, the Texas Revolution. A day after the Battle of San Jacinto, forces under Texas General Sam Houston identify Mexican General Antonio López de Santa Anna among the captives of the battle when some of his fellow soldiers mistakenly give away his identity. 1876. Are we good now?
Yes, sir. You want to roll right
Okay.
on into that, or you want to finish what you're doing? It's up to you.
No, finish what we were doing before, and then I can roll into that anytime.
Homie basically said, I'm broke, I am destitute, I don't even have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out. Please be gentle, oh Mr. IRS.
Yep, I am absolutely, because that's what you're supposed to be when you declare bankruptcy, after all.
Right.
You're not
But then
supposed to be
turns around.
full-time employed with a very cushy, well-paying position in the city of Dalton.
He starts pulling down great big stacks and bags of cash off the books, evidently under the table, like everything else she does. Because here's the funny part: the entire fleet of police vehicles being repossessed. The stoplights, the fucking stoplights in the town, are in danger of being repossessed. The crosswalk,
The city basically hasn't paid any of its bills since she took over. That's pretty much what we're looking at here.
right? And yet he apparently is being indicted or is under indictment. How's that work? Anyway,
I believe they are impaneling the grand jury this week, so indictments should come down a week or two, because the grand jury usually goes pretty quickly, because you can get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich,
that is true.
as the saying goes.
Right. Sup, Flow State? Welcome in, bud. So I am absolutely tickled pink about this whole freaking endeavor. The fact that the FBI has actually showed up in Dalton blows my mind, because I had expected, and I've got a really wild take on this one. I was looking at some of the laws that should be enacted in these indictments. And he's probably going to go under a jail somewhere, because the IRS is going to get a hold of his ass. He's going to get RICO'd out.
I expect he's going to get the worst of it.
But I have a theory that she is going to plead down to something that will either be a very low felony or a mid misdemeanor. She might do 18 months and get a $3 million contract for a book that's ghost written by someone else, and then get to star in a movie about her life where she stars herself.
She will get the Netflix documentary, the book deal, the whole woke golden parachute that every disgraced woke public official gets.
Exactly. But I firmly believe she is going to play herself in that movie. You freaking watch.
Oh yeah, guarantee. Yep.
Minimum, she's going to get like 18 months probation, maximum sentence 1 year. Actually,
yeah, she will not get anything close to what is commensurate for the offenses she has committed, because she will be able to play the I'm a black woman and the evil racist right wingers are out to get me card, because it works. So why wouldn't she play it?
The entire city council's black. There's not a single white person on it, nowhere. And
she's going to say it anyway.
Good Lord.
Village meetings, one of the constituents actually called him out for. But for me, this is an obvious sign that the walls are closing in, and possibly they are looking to flip people on the super mayor in order to bring her down in a blaze of glory. Now, we're going to get into it, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who signed up over at actualjusticeword.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. okay?
And remind you that on Saturday, April 27th of this year, I will be in Austin, Texas at MindsFest. Link to tickets, top of the description, promo code AJW for 20% off.
As WGN Investigates was first to report today, a top aide to Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard has been indicted for bankruptcy fraud. It comes amid ongoing questions about Henyard's spending and leadership.
So as WGN, the local affiliate over in Chicago, reports, who, by the way, they've been on this story covering it from the jump since before any of us were interested, there has been an indictment of Keith Freeman, Tiffany Henyard's right-hand man, and more importantly, the money man, the man who handles the finances of the village and of the Thornton Township, for a personal bankruptcy fraud. Now, you might be thinking, look, why are they going after him for this?
And legal experts say it could be the first sign that the feds are trying to get people to share what they know about potential government corruption in the South suburbs.
And the answer to that question could be twofold. First and foremost, if what is alleged in this indictment is in fact true, and by the way, some of it is pretty damning because he's saying that he's not receiving a salary for a position that we can all 100% see him in next to Tiffany A. Henyard repeatedly in the village of Dalton, and his salary is publicly available in the village of Dalton, then obviously he committed this bankruptcy fraud. But number two, if you get him on this, then chances are you would be able to get Tiffany Henyard's money man to flip on the super mayor, and that could lead to serious criminal charges against the corrupt super mayor. But let's get into this. Let's talk about this. Let's show you what the local news is highlighting, but then we'll actually go to the indictment ourselves and go over the different various things that he's accused of.
Let's be smarter than that. This is not just the price is right.
Despite sitting next to Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard at countless meetings, the feds allege Keith Freeman not only failed to report his income from the village, he actively lied about it. Freeman is Henyard's top aide in both Dalton.
My bad. I thought it was the other guy, the village attorney, the one that has village attorney written there. I thought that was the desk he was sitting at.
Oh, easy mistake.
And Thornton Township as part of a personal
But
bankruptcy
let's be honest, it does sound like white crimes.
case. He was required to report his
And who knows? Maybe the white guy's a crook too.
Fraud says Freeman falsely stated he only worked for the township and made just over $99,000 last year. Prosecutors say he tried to hide his Dalton earnings via a pass-through company, which brought his income to $195,000 last year.
Whoopsie.
Okay, let's get this 100% straight for those of you out there in the audience. So when you file for personal bankruptcy, one of the things that happens is all these different various cases against you, all these different collection actions end up getting paused pending the adjudication of that bankruptcy. However, in good faith, you are supposed to report your income and all that so that the judge can actually assess what is to be paid, what is to be discharged, and all of that. So obviously, if you're making lower income, what you're going to actually have to pay to your creditors is going to go down. And this is why you could understand the potential for fraud here. And just like reported by WGN and as is in the indictment, it appears that Freeman, even though he is sitting next to Henyard in all of the Village of Dalton and Thornton Township meetings, only reported income for the Thornton Township and not these other positions.
They further allege the Village of Robbins has a claim against Freeman for more than $90,000 he took without authorization from a previous post he held as village administrator there.
Now, like I said, this is crucial because his lower reported income is going to lead to his creditors potentially getting ripped off. And
Okay, so what we have is the classic situation of oh, I'm poor, woe is me, broke ass me. I'm going to declare bankruptcy now so that you can't reach back into my earlier finances to burn me on what I'm doing today, right?
It takes serious stones to file bankruptcy and pretend you're unemployed when you have a job where you're on fucking television every day.
yes. We can all see him sitting next to Henyard at all these meetings. On top of that, I just want to point something out for you guys in the audience. So Freeman is the number 2 in the Village of Dalton. And reportedly, according to this indictment, according to the WGN report, according to public records, he makes about $100,000 in that number 2 position. But Tiffany A. Henyard actually only makes around $50,000 as the mayor of Dalton. Now, in terms of her position in Thornton Township, she makes almost $250,000 there. That's where the bulk of her salary actually comes from. But isn't it a little bit interesting or a little bit curious that the number two position, the assistant to the mayor, the number one assistant, advisor, whatever you want to call it, to the mayor makes double what the mayor makes, especially when you factor in that the village of Dalton has an average income of $25,000. But that being said, this is about to get a lot worse, because the way that this guy lied on his bankruptcy form, because, you know, you could lie a little bit on your form, or you could tell a gigantic lie, is absolutely epic and definitely in the gigantic lie category.
This is long coming. If a person can lie on their own financials, what do you think they're doing for the village? Nobody is untouchable. That's what I want to say. Nobody is untouchable. So if this is just the first domino to all of them falling, let it happen.
Now that you have the trustees that are celebrating the fact that this might be the first domino to fall, and I have to be perfectly honest with you guys out there in the audience, I'm in agreement. I think that the reason that they're charging this person, other than the fact that there is appearing to be overwhelming evidence against him, is because they're looking to get the mayor. They're looking to bring this whole system down, and all of the trustees are aware of this. And remember, the FBI had already been meeting with these different people, having conversations with them, so they're trying to get at the heart of the matter. And the fact of the matter is, Keith Freeman is the finance guy. This is the person that Henyard ends up putting in charge of this on the paperwork, so that she doesn't get caught up in all the crazy spending that she's engaged in.
Dude, Jay Bradley, how you doing?
Freeman is a key player in our reporting on Tiffany Henyard because of how many roles he plays for her. In addition to the Dalton and Township jobs, Freeman also, for a time, was the registered agent of the Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation.
But there's no foundation in the state of Illinois moving like we move, shaking, moving like we doing. Right?
While Henyard's
All right. So to refresh everyone's memory, this is the march that she did for the cancer nonprofit that apparently she opened and then denied having opening, and then apparently has acquired all of the money from it, but nobody knows who actually established it. But it wasn't her at all, but she did end up with the cash somehow.
It wasn't her. She just has so many people who respect and admire her that they wanted to start a charity with her name, because that would be such a great asset for a charity to have. It's a really wonderful, inspiring story.
Right.
Its namesake charity claims to help cancer patients. WGN Investigates has reported it received most of its early money from taxpayers and has failed to file required paperwork showing how it spends its money.
Now, again, WGN doing an absolute job right here. They're telling you that not only is Keith Freeman her number two in Thornton Township, her number two in the village of Dalton, but he's also the registered agent of the Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation. And you guys will remember this foundation because it's the same one that Roland Martin, in his infinite stupidity, was convinced by Tiffany Henyard she had nothing to do with, despite the fact that she's in the videos promoting it, her face is all over it, and of course, all of the videos promoting it appear on the Thornton Township YouTube channel, and of course, that their initial contribution was from the Thornton Township. She voted for her own organization that, wink wink, is not under her. It's just under Keith Freeman, who she doesn't know. I mean, he's her right-hand man in two different government positions, and they might actually be dating, to give them $10,000. But Roland Martin might believe this, but guess what?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has some really hard Atlanta vibes on it, man. This is giving me those Fannie Willis vibes all over again.
Have you seen that Roland Martin interview?
Oh, God, yes, dude.
Oh, that is really a thing to behold, isn't it?
Oh, wow. The thing is, she's a bad liar. She's a bad liar. She straight up does the side eye out both sides every time he asks her a question and she lies about it. She straight up is like, no.
Like he was doing his level best to help her out as best he could, and she was just too dumb to figure it out.
Well, not only that, she did everything but the finger in the mouth and the wringing of the hands like a Bond villain. I mean, dude, she is. Oh wow, I'm actually impressed.
If she had a mustache, she would twirl it.
Yes, no, I think exactly.
The FBI definitely does not, and the local affiliate definitely does not.
How come you don't respond to my emails?
There you go. There you go. There you go. That's all you get from me. That's all you get from me today.
How come the charity hasn't filed its financial disclosures about how money was spent?
Look at him pulling his hand back.
That's a good question.
I mean, you have to absolutely laugh at this. This guy is.
You see that pat on the shoulder?
Oh yeah, the parting fuck you pat on the shoulder.
That was letting him know exactly how big and strong a man he really is. When he hit
Yep.
that sucker on the shoulder, it was like a big old ham fist coming down. Kaboom, kaboom.
Yep. Stay cute, little man.
Registered agent
Yeah,
for this
that's
organization.
sweet.
He's the right-hand man for Enyard in all these different regards. And he just answers, how would I know that? How would I be aware of that? I mean, I incorporated this foundation. I'm the one who set it up the day that we got this $10,000 contribution. But you expect me to know the answer to the basic question that me being in the position that I'm at this organization definitely should know? That's ridiculous. Gives him a nice pat on the shoulder and pieces out, because this guy was never expecting to be held accountable, which is why the accountability tastes so good in this particular story. So to give you an idea of how fraudulent Freeman was, let's just go over some of the basics of this. So in terms of total assets, he actually reported, and this is because he was hiding money in all these different various.
It was further a part of the scheme that on or about January 3rd, 2024, Freeman filed the Freeman bankruptcy case, his schedules, and a statement of financial affairs signed under penalty of perjury that contained materially false statements and material omissions. It was further part of that scheme on or about the January 3rd of 2024, Freeman filed a Schedule AB in Freeman bankruptcy case disclosing total assets of approximately $5,251. And that's bullshit.
Various accounts that were company accounts, corporations, and all of that he had about $5,200 total in terms of assets. But the lying didn't stop there, because he actually only reported that he had about $174,000 owed to creditors, but that's actually an underreport, because if you guys will remember from the local news segment, and it is in the indictment, you had the Village of Robbins saying that he collected about $90,000 in terms of unauthorized payments. And technically, because the Village of Robbins wants that money back, that actually should be added on to the $174,000. Now, you guys can understand that if they're going to assess your ability to pay in a bankruptcy court and what's going to be paid, that when you're claiming $5,200 against $174,000, obviously a huge portion of the creditors of that $174,000 are going to be completely screwed over. But then we come to find out that it actually should be around $260,000. But apparently what he didn't want to happen was for the Village of Robbins to get in on this personal bankruptcy case to try to get their money. Because remember, they're also claiming that he took unauthorized salary from them, which should actually boost up his income.
They further allege the Village of Robbins has a claim against Freeman for more than $90,000 he took without authorization from a previous post he held as village administrator there.
Above what he is actually reporting. So it's kind of like he lied on both sides of the ledger right here. But things actually get even more sketchy. So it says right here, Freeman falsely represented that his only employment was as the municipality manager of Thornton Township, when he knew he was also the village administrator for the Village of Dalton. Again, we can all see him right next to her in the Village of Dalton meetings. We can all see him as her right-hand person, and his salary is public, but he still allegedly, according to this indictment, reported that he had an income of $7,167 per month, when in reality his income was closer to $15,000, because again, he was making that additional money as the village administrator for Dalton, despite the fact that he was claiming that he didn't actually work there. Now, what's absolutely...
And your salary is a matter of public record, and you're on TV every day, you idiot.
Dude, it's a matter of public record, like 9 ways to Sunday.
I know. What
he's a
goes on in these
public
people's
figure.
heads, dude?
Wow. Dude, if I tried any of this stuff, my ass would have got busted back there at the gates.
Oh, I know. Are you kidding me?
No way I got away with any of this trash.
Actually is claiming, when you take out that $100,000 that he makes from the Village of Dalton, where we all know he works for, his salary is public record there, that his net income after taxes, after all the expenses that he has to pay, is $94.72. $94.72. That's all the money that he has to cover these debts. $94.72. Not even $95, not even $100. $94.72. The fact that this man put $94.72 on a bankruptcy form that he swore to under penalty of perjury just goes to show you how out of hand these people actually are, how crazy these people actually are, and how emboldened they've become by...
The best part is the 72 cents. I love the 72 cents. That is my favorite thing ever.
It's the greatest shit ever.
Do you think it seems more credible if you don't round the dollar amount of your fake, assets I have remaining number?
Yeah, didn't even say $100.
Yeah,
Slightly
didn't even say $100. Exactly.
But here's the really, really twisted part. Do you reckon he like Fannie Willis? He keeps all of his money in cash inside his home.
Well, naturally, it's a black thing.
Apparently, I mean
that's what Fannie told us.
Yeah, that's totally a cultural thing, and white people won't understand.
Apparently, black people are incapable of using banks, and they just keep big stacks of cash laying around their houses.
As I understand it, it is they just don't trust banks. It
was news to me. I thank Fannie for cluing me in.
Historically, anytime there was a major economic hiccup in America, the black people lost everything. This is a fact. This is true. They immediately just annexed every single black owned everything and pretended that they've owned it the whole time, and no one ever said a word about it as far as that went. At this point, that's not the case anymore, it doesn't seem. I think it's going to be everybody losing everything this time, because when it happens, it's going to happen to all the major financial institutions simultaneously, almost as if it's part of a plan.
Almost.
Their positions of power. They say absolute power corrupts absolutely. This, to me, is the biggest proof positive of that. He thought he was going to get away with it. Now, look, to be 100% clear, even though I think what's going on in the village of Dalton is obviously corrupt, as I've reported on it multiple times on this channel, and I think what's going on in Thornton Township is equally as nasty and horrible. If he were off by a couple $1,000s, I would tell you, you know what? You're supposed to report to a bankruptcy to the best of your ability. And the fact of the matter is, I would think that they're going after him as a proxy for getting him to flip on Henyard. And I would say that that's completely unjustified. But the thing is, we're not off by $1,000 or $2,000. This isn't within the normal range that somebody would estimate their income. And maybe they got a pay increase over here, or they had an additional source that they didn't think about. This is off by a huge scale. This is off by, in some cases, over $100,000. Let me get into this part of the indictment. So Freeman, for the year 2022, represented his gross income, which is before taxes, at $45,186, when he knew that his gross income from his employment as both the municipality manager of Thornton Township and the Village of Dalton administrator, combined with consulting fees from a company, was approximately $140,000. Freeman falsely reported that for the calendar year of 2023, he had only $99,000 in income. But of course, with the Village of Dalton salary, it was approximately $195,000. Now, he also apparently said that his only business.
So just on that one filing, he missed $100,000. Six figures just disappeared, right?
Well, yes, and the larger truth here is, you have a guy making a couple $100,000 a year who's bankrupt. Because I do believe he's actually bankrupt. I don't doubt that for a second. That somebody could have an income that big and have managed it that badly. I don't have any trouble believing that. The issue here is that he claims not to be employed when he has a very lucrative, high-paying job where he's on television every day.
Two jobs. He's also her.
One in the village, one in the township.
Right. Exactly.
Business was Keith Freeman LLC, even though that Freeman knew that he owned Government Staffing Advisors Inc. Now, look, again, I just want to say this indictment is technically an indictment. So again, everything is alleged. Mr. Freeman, as of right now, is still a free man. Yes, I just made that joke. Yes, that's at the level that we're operating at right now. But to be clear, they're saying that he owned corporations, multiple, and then he said he only owned one. That should be pretty easy to prove. They said that he was in control of a bank account that he claimed that he had nothing to do with, And again, that should be easy to approve. On top of that, he's claiming $45,000 in income in a year where he made $140,000 in income, and these are from government positions. Now, the feds can prove that you make this income from private positions, to be clear about that, but your government salaries are a matter of public record. That's how they know what Tiffany Henyard makes, if you remember that video. And then he claimed he only made $99,000 and he only worked at Thornton Township when he was making an additional $100K from the village of Dalton as an advisor. We could see him on video in that position. And again, his salary is public. So even though it's alleged, this is pretty damn near close to being signed, sealed, and delivered for Mr. Freeman. So we can expect to potentially see this money man right here for her, who, by the way, of course, is going through a personal bankruptcy and, of course, is trying to defraud the bankruptcy court, turning on Henyard, revealing where the bodies are buried, and this will ultimately end up bringing down the super mayor. Now, of course, if you guys want a little bit of a more understanding of how close he is to Tiffany Henyard.
Okay, so let's do a sidebar because I have a question. What do you reckon the chances are that she's able to hang all this trash on him?
I know she will try.
She
Because-
will try.
Obviously, she'll try.
I mean,
Because that's what people like this do when they're in danger of being brought down. They just take their associates and start throwing them to the wolves.
yeah, you can't. I'm not going to finish that sentence.
Obviously, there are the allegations or allegations, as Tiffany Henyard says, that he is in fact her boyfriend. But you can look at the trips and whatnot that they were going on and realize that he was there on almost all of them.
For months, WGN Investigates has reported on questionable conduct on Henyard's watch, including
Just like Fanny and Nathan.
airfare and fine dining on the taxpayer's dime. Credit card statements show Freeman.
Dude, it's like they read the same how-to manual. It's as if they got the same pamphlet at a George Soros meeting.
You know, and I think I just want to take a moment here to say that American welfare queens should take great pride in how far they've come. 40 years ago, they were all sitting on the couch watching soap operas. Today, they are high government officials. You've come a long way, baby.
Yeah, I'd do a slow clap, but I don't believe in clap.
Was on many of the trips, including one to Las Vegas, where another Henyard aide now claims a Dalton trustee sexually assaulted her. Others accuse Henyard of using Freeman and other government employees to retaliate against her opponents. Court watchers say the feds could use the bankruptcy charge against Freeman to get him to cooperate in other investigations.
When the feds are looking at a larger scheme or relationship, oftentimes what they have to do is go for people who are below or the lower part of the food chain, get them for something, charge them with something, because that's the leverage they need to be able to sit down with that person and say, now, if you help us, life might be good for you. If you don't help us, you're in a lot of trouble. Now, what do you want to do?
So yeah, what we're seeing is the beginning of the end for Tiffany A. Henyard. All of this smoke has finally led the fire department to say, hey, there's a fire over there, and I'm here to see it, although I will miss the super mayor. I will genuinely, in a lot of different ways, want her
Us
to
too, brother.
Because
Yeah,
I
you're
love
not
this
the only
woman.
one,
She's
Sean.
done so much for this channel. She's done so much for me personally. Even though she's stealing from these people and I feel horrible from them, that has generated so
I mean, honestly, it's almost like she's working for us at this point. I mean,
I got a poll question for the chat.
Okay.
What are the odds that the super mayor 5 years from now will have an OnlyFans?
If it takes 5 years.
Fair point. Maybe 3.
3 tops, not even.
Well, after she spends all the money from the Netflix documentary and the book deal.
Right. Well, no, I think she'll set it up before then, but
Yeah.
she won't be able to actually. Yeah, no, she probably already got an OnlyFans and just hasn't actually gone public with it.
Yeah, probably so.
I mean, this is a woman who started a podcast the very second her crimes made her famous. She started a podcast to discuss criminal things and was immediately monetized by the platform. Of course she was.
Yes,
It's
because as we all know, YouTube is a 100% level playing field that does not have any political preferences whatsoever.
Absolutely. It is so level that I almost feel bad being here with all my white privilege.
so much income for me. I just don't want to let her go. I want to hold on forever. Please, for the love of God, can we have a public televised trial where Tiffany A. Henyard represents herself, or at least testifies? Something for all of us.
Yes.
But you know what? That's really all I have.
Because, ladies and gentlemen, we will live stream that trial.
I am going to do everything in my power, and I've got a couple of different YouTubers that I've got on tap that in the event that somebody can't make it, we should at least have 2 or 3 white guys to tell you what to think all the way through.
But yeah, I mean, I guess the election is going to be the event of the year, but number 2 is the super mayor trial. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah, if they don't televise some part of this thing, I'm going to be just absolutely angry. All right, do your day in history thing. I'm going to set up something for discussing the movie.
All right, here I go. Where did I leave? Okay, 1876, 22 April. The first National League Baseball game is played at the Jefferson Street grounds in Philadelphia. 1889, at noon, thousands rushed to claim land in the land rush of 1889. Within a matter of hours, the cities of Oklahoma City and Guthrie are formed with populations of over 10,000 each. 1898, the Spanish-American War. President William McKinley calls for 125,000 volunteers to join the National Guard and fight in Cuba, while Congress more than doubles regular army forces to 65,000. 1930, the United Kingdom, Japan, and the United States signed the London Naval Treaty regulating submarine warfare and limiting shipbuilding. 1944, the first Air Commando Group, using Sikorsky R-4 helicopters, stages the first use of helicopters in combat, with combat search and rescue operations inside the China-Burma-India theater. 1954, the Red Scare. Witnesses begin testifying and live television coverage of the Army McCarthy hearings begins. 1969, British yachtsman Sir Robin Cox Johnston wins the Sunday Times Golden Globe race and completes the first solo non-stop circumnavigation of the world. 23 April, 1348. The founding of the Order of the Garter by King Edward III is announced on St. George's Day. 1516, the Munich Reinheitsgebot regarding the ingredients of beer takes effect in all of Bavaria, and I believe it remains in effect up until this very day. 1635, the first public school in the United States, the Boston Latin School, is founded. 1661, King Charles II of England, Scotland, and Ireland is crowned in Westminster Abbey, thus ending England's first and only experiment with republicanism. 1879, fire burns down the second main building and dome of the University of Notre Dame, which prompts the construction of the third and current main building with its famous Golden Dome. 1945, World War II, Adolf Hitler's designated successor, Hermann Goering, sends him a telegram in one of history's great miscalculations, asking permission to take leadership of Nazi Germany. Martin Bormann and Joseph Goebbels advise Goering that the telegram is fucking treason. 1967, Soviet space program. Soyuz 1, a crewed spaceflight carrying cosmonaut Colonel Vladimir Komarov, is launched into orbit. Stay tuned for how it ends. 1968, Vietnam War. Student protesters at Columbia University in New York City take over administration buildings and shut down the university. Tell me if any of this sounds strangely familiar. 1985, Coca-Cola changes its formula and releases new Coke. The response is overwhelmingly negative, and the original formula is back on the market in less than 3 months. 2005, the very first YouTube video titled Me at the Zoo is published by co-founder Jawed Karim. 24 April, 1183 BC, traditional reckoning of the fall of Troy, marking the end of the legendary Trojan War given by chief librarian of the Library of Alexandria, Eratosthenes, among others. 1558, Mary Queen of Scots marries the Dauphin of France, Francois, at Notre Dame de Paris. 1704, the first regular newspaper in British colonial America, the Boston Newsletter, is first published. 1800, the United States Library of Congress is established when President John Adams signs legislation to appropriate $5,000, such a princely sum, to purchase, quote, such books as may be necessary for the use of Congress. 1885, American sharpshooter Annie Oakley is hired by Nate Salisbury to be a part of Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. 1916, the Easter Rising. Irish rebels led by Patrick Pearse and James Connolly launch an uprising in Dublin against British rule and proclaim an Irish Republic. 1916, a story we know well on this program. Ernest Shackleton and 5 men of the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition launch a lifeboat from uninhabited Elephant Island in the Southern Ocean to organize a rescue for the crew of the sunken ship Endurance. 1922, the first segment of the Imperial wireless chain, providing wireless telegraphy between Leafield in Oxfordshire, England, and Cairo, Egypt, comes into operation. 1953, Winston Churchill is knighted by Queen Elizabeth II, thus becoming Sir Winston Churchill. He was offered any title or peerage he wanted, and he just took the knighthood. 1967, cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov dies in Soyuz 1. When his parachute fails to open, he is the first human to die during a space mission. 1967, the Vietnam War. American General William Westmoreland says in a news conference that the enemy had gained support in the United States that gives him hope that he can win politically that which he cannot win militarily. 1980, 8 U.S. servicemen die in Operation Eagle Claw as they attempt to end the Iran hostage crisis. 1990, STS-31. The Hubble Space Telescope is launched from Space Shuttle Discovery. 2005, Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger is inaugurated as the 265th Pope of the Catholic Church, taking the name Pope Benedict XVI. 25 April, 799. After mistreatment and disfigurement by the citizens of Rome, Pope Leo III flees to the Frankish court of King Charlemagne at Paderborn for protection. 1607, the 80 Years' War. The Dutch fleet destroys the anchored Spanish fleet at Gibraltar. 1707, a coalition of Britain, the Netherlands, and Portugal is defeated by a Franco-Spanish army at Almanza, Spain in the War of the Spanish Succession. 1792, highwayman Nicolas J. Pelletier becomes the first person ever executed by guillotine. 1846, the Thornton Affair. Open conflict begins over the disputed border of Texas, triggering the Mexican-American War. 1849, the Governor-General of Canada, Lord Elgin, signs the Rebellion Losses Bill, outraging Montreal's English population and triggering the Montreal riots. 1859, British and French engineers break ground for the Suez Canal. 1862, American Civil War. Forces under U.S. Admiral David Farragut demand the surrender of the Confederate city of New Orleans, Louisiana. 1901, New York becomes the first U.S. state to require automobile license plates. 1915, World War I, the Battle of Gallipoli begins the invasion of the Turkish Gallipoli Peninsula by British, French, Indian, Newfoundland, Australian, and New Zealand troops. Begins with landings at Anzac Cove and Cape Helles. 1933, Nazi Germany issues the law against overcrowding in schools and universities, limiting the number of Jewish students able to attend schools and universities. Again, stop me if this one sounds weirdly familiar. 1945, World War II. The last German troops retreat from Finnish soil in Lapland, ending the Lapland War. Military actions of the Second World War end in Finland. 1953, Francis Crick and James Watson published the molecular structure of nucleic acids, a structure for, I'm not going to say that word, nucleic acid, describing the double helix structure of DNA. 1960, the United States Navy submarine USS Triton completes the first submerged circumnavigation of the globe. 1982, Israel completes its withdrawal from the Sinai Peninsula per the Camp David Accords. 2007, Boris Yeltsin's funeral is the first to be sanctioned by the Russian Orthodox Church for a head of state since the funeral of Emperor Alexander III in 1894. 26 April, 1478. The Pazzi family attack on Lorenzo de' Medici in order to displace the ruling Medici family kills his brother Giuliano during High Mass in the Florence Cathedral. 1777, Sybil Ludington, age 16, allegedly rides 40 miles to alert American colonial forces to the approach of the British forces. 1803, thousands of meteor fragments fall from the skies of L'Aigle, France. The event convinces European scientists that meteors exist. 1805, First Barbary War, United States Marines captured Dern under the command of First Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon in 1865. Union cavalry troopers corner and shoot dead the scoundrel John Wilkes Booth, assassin of President Abraham Lincoln. In rural Virginia, 1920, ice hockey makes its Olympic debut at the Antwerp Games with center Frank Frederickson scoring 7 goals. That's a double hat trick plus 1 for Christ's sake. In Canada's 12-1 drubbing of Sweden in the gold medal match. 1923, Prince Albert, Duke of York, the future King George VI, weds Lady Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon at Westminster Abbey. 1954, the first clinical trials of Jonas Salk's polio vaccine begin in Fairfax County, Virginia. In 1986, the Chernobyl disaster occurs in the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. 2015, Nursultan Nazarbayev is re-elected president of Kazakhstan with 97.7% of the vote in an election that CNN called the most secure in history. And that is all I've got.
Magnificent. You've done well, my boy. All right. So
thank you very much indeed, sir.
We got 5 minutes till the turn of the hour. We're going to wait for the turn of the hour, and we're going to take these 5 minutes to go through our chats. I see no reason not to, but we're going to do it backwards from the last comment forward, or backwards, or in time. Lindsay Smith, welcome in. It's good to see you. I appreciate you coming by. Chuck in Tennessee.
Hi, Lindsay.
Show. We got Violence is Life in the chat. I'm glad to see you. Anti-Atjack has arrived. Always good to see that one. He's one of my pro mods over there.
Nice.
Andy Pickle.
Andy Pickle in the house.
Just don't get me started. Oh boy, we got Callie in your chat. They've been over there chatting it up with me. I've been talking.
Yeah, big time. We got Chuck in Tennessee.
We got old guy 65 Mitch. Welcome in. It's previous guest on one of my shows. Anarchy Television has arrived. It's always good. You never know what's going to be on that one, obviously.
I can always do with a bit of Anarchy Television.
Zilj. I'm not sure how to say that. I think I've heard it before. Everybody calls him Z, though. We're going to go with the Z. What's up, bud?
Yeah, it's probably the safe thing to do, all things considered.
Baxter has joined the chat. It's always good to have Gary around. Ajot breezed through earlier, and we had...
It must have been quick. I missed her completely. It must have been while I was talking.
She popped in right when we started up, was like, hey, and then dipped out apparently because she doesn't really love us.
Clearly.
Think that's everybody. Flow State. I've already shouted out Flow State there. But he doesn't count. He's one of those douchey white guys with the earring and the hat on backwards. Oh, wait, my bad.
God, I hate guys like that.
I think it's a profession at this point.
They should stop being such fucking douchebags.
I'm not sure that's even possible. We got mid-sized Sasquatch. Good to see you, girl. Appreciate you coming by.
A member of your own species joining us.
Well, that's a Sasquatch. That's not quite Sasquatch material.
Oh.
And we got
Are
Irish
they species adjacent and not necessarily same species?
Right, species adjacent. We got Gypsy and the Vanilla Gorilla in your chat. That's cool. That's
nice.
A good move right there. Four Corners Fist in there. They cruise through. We got Curious Squirrel. Magnificent. Is there anybody? Michelle, I appreciate you coming by, girl. Always good to see you. And I think I just lost my ability to scroll up for some reason. Dirty Rotten Imbecile 69 and Northwoods Press. M's Mad World and the Smoking Auditor came in. And
saw them.
They had I'm not even going to get into that, but Smoking Auditor, appreciate you coming by. M's Mad World, you too, girl. You know how it is.
Smoking Auditor who bought a live channel membership last week on the air, which I still appreciate.
Yep, he bought me one also.
Oh, I did notice that. I noticed you had my handsome visage next to your screen name.
That's because I'm one of the cool kids, don't you know?
Boom!
Booyah.
Catch the virus, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, maybe not that virus, but listen,
Maybe not that virus.
we're going to segue straight into the first installment of Rebel Moon, The Child of Fire. Now, I want to be perfectly clear. I respect Jack Snyder as a producer, as a director. I like the things he typically does. When it goes all slow-mo and we get close-up looks of sweat dripping and shit, don't ask me why. I dig that type of filmography. It's
When you see a shot that goes from 20% slow-mo to 80% slow-mo to 50% slow-mo, you know you were watching Zack Snyder.
exactly. And so it's a good, solid. I mean, it's like Michael Bay and all his jump cuts. It's a good, solid.
Yeah, well, it's a filmmaker who is, you know, for better or worse, unmistakable in his visual style, and you can tell exactly who it is even if you don't know ahead of time.
Facts. Now, we're gonna dig down onto the plot in these two films a little bit more than I have previously, because I'm not a big fan of spoiling movies. Yes, I am. I love it. I love spoiling movies. I'm the type of
Me too.
asshole who sits in the theater and talks about all the differences between the movie and the book so far.
You got a movie, we will spoil it for you.
Screw that, dude. I will ruin it. In fact, we have a terminology locally amongst my friends and I referred to as jimming up a movie, because my buddy Jim cannot help himself but to just sit there and point out every little error, flaw, pothole, anything he notices will be yelled at the top of his lung in the theater. On the way to the theater, he'll tell you the entire plot. We call it jimming up a movie, and I have learned at the foot of the master on this point.
It has been channel policy from day one on my channel that I do not do spoiler warnings, and I don't care if it upsets you.
Excellent. I don't care if anyone's upset at all about anything ever. It's just a policy. So here's my take on the first film. I defended it. It was not a great film unless you just get rid of the plot and you just look at the visuals, the sound effects, the acting. I don't even have a problem with the acting. I think the casting was pretty good. The acting was decent under most circumstances, with the exception of that one guy who was obviously going to turn on him.
Yeah, and they had to get the group from 7 down to 6 so that the Magnificent 7 ripoff would be less screamingly obvious.
Right. Well,
They even do a dialogue sequence where they have someone say that there's only 6 of them, which made me laugh so hard. because you know this movie is the diverse, inclusive, Magnificent 7 in space.
That's exactly what it is. But okay, so the first movie goes off exactly how you would expect. They all end up successfully killing the protagonist, the evil white male that is currently not even the ruler of the galaxy, but just the captain or admiral of a particular little flotilla of ships. Okay, this is a single ship in a galactic empire, but they have a problem. They need food, so they go to this planet and they just lower the iron fist on them, but tell them, you got a month or so to get all our crap together. We're going to come pick it up.
And their interstellar warp capable starships are run by dudes shoveling coal into boilers. I am not making this up.
That is not a joke. We're going to get to a few other details in a second.
sorry if I'm too ahead of the game there.
You're good. There's more to that particular gripe. I got a whole list of gripes on that point. But okay. So as I was saying, the actors are pretty good. When you're trying to act like a steaming pile of dog shit and you succeed in acting like a steaming pile of dog shit, you shouldn't be throwing any freaking smoke on them. You know, the actors are not to blame for the failure of these films.
Absolutely not.
So
I mean, and that includes an actor being miscast. An actor being miscast and delivering an underwhelming performance is not the actor's fault. It's the fault of the casting director and the director.
It's also the fault of every single money man between point A and point B who did not bump the guy and go, "Hey, can we get somebody better for that role?"
Yeah, and the female lead in these movies, I don't recognize her. I'm not sure what her name is or who she is, but she is just absolutely god awful terrible with her line readings, like she's
Lee?
reading a cue card.
She is I'm almost positive she's reading cue cards. I am almost positive they have somebody.
I think we're in the third act of the second film before we get a second facial expression out of her.
Yeah, but it goes from mildly disappointed to frown. that's
Yes.
breadth about.
All right, now be glum, now be dour, now be depressed, now be sad.
There you go. That is the full gambit of the lead actress's capability. Yet again, I'm not throwing smoke at her for that. My main problem comes down to the plot and the storyline itself, because in opening, this individual, get this, is the most wanted being in the galaxy because she managed to put a hit in. Was it on the Emperor or the Princess? It was the Princess, wasn't it?
Well, according to the story that's been popularly promulgated, she is the assassin of the entire royal family, because they did like a really way over the top recreation of the assassination of Julius Caesar. I mean, where they even are all wearing togas, and they've got like a little logo that's obviously based on the logo of the Roman Republic, and they pull out knives and everything. Talk about that is derivative with a capital. No, that is derivative in all caps.
Okay. And yet I could still forgive that, because the first film, hold on, I'm screwing the pooch over here. Let me do this properly. The first film was actually very well done. It was very well put together. I have look at her. Look, you see that? Find one smile that's on her face. That was a smile. Supposedly.
Yeah, that was almost a smile.
Right? Okay, so this is the level
but that right there is as close as she gets in the entire two films to looking happy.
This is the level of technology we're dealing with. This is a backwater planet on the edge of a fringe of a system who is nothing more than a farming world. It's basically a little town outside of France that grows wheat. That's what it is. It's a wheat town, but
it's Wheat Planet.
What's up, King Philip? Welcome in. William,
because we're doing that beloved movie trope, sci-fi trope, where every planet is only one thing. There's a farming planet and a mining planet
exactly
and a shipbuilding planet.
That is exactly what this is. But I have so many freaking problems with it that I can't even get to right yet. We have to deal with other problems before we get to the problems. Because this is a galactic empire with thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of ships under their command. They have this one order that is followed under all circumstances. In the event that an admiral is killed, the entire fleet immediately pulls up roots and hauls ass back to the home planet to go get a new admiral.
Can you imagine if the British Empire had that rule? How badly things might have gone for them?
Dude, there wouldn't have been a British Empire.
There wouldn't. Yeah, you're exactly right. There would not have been a British Empire.
There'd have been a couple of hard pipe hitting fellows sitting around with a couple of long rifles that would have straightened that whole show out right out the gate.
Like of all the stupid ass rules you could invent just for narrative convenience, that one is pretty high up on the list, in my opinion.
Okay, so these people are out here in this village planet, if you will. They're farming, and we have the protagonist who comes in, demands some food, says they're going to come back in a couple of weeks to pick it up. You better have it all done. They then beat to death the leader of the planet and put someone else in command who becomes your second string, almost white protagonist buddy. This is not the main character of the film. This is the secondary main character of the film, of which there are 6.
And then the Mexican villagers decide they've had enough, and they recruit Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen to come save them.
But that never happened. So what really happens in this, because that was a much better film.
I'm just saying the Magnificent Seven vibes are really incredibly strong with this one, and also the Lord of the Rings vibes. If I was Peter Jackson, I would sue the living shit out of Zack Snyder for the sequence where we are very obviously writing into Rohan, and they're playing a song that's like one note different from the Rohan theme. I mean, come on, Zack, what are we doing here?
I think he just phoned in that second one. We haven't gotten to that yet. We got other problems to deal with. So
Sorry, I'm getting ahead of the game again.
It's easy to do because it's hard to keep all of the trash separated. It all looks the same. So the entire first film comes down to being oh no, we're in trouble. What are we going to do? Let's go hire some mercenaries to come and deal with these people. That seems like a solid idea. Who can we get to go hire them? Oh, maybe this one person over here who just murked half of that ship in an afternoon.
Boom.
We'll get her to go hire some people and that'll work out, right? And so she goes and hires quite literally, I'm not even joking, this pisses me off to no end, the very first person she sees when she gets to the place she's trying to hire people.
And in the first film, we have an awful lot of where the people driving the narrative forward are the female characters, and the male characters just kind of stand around reacting to what the female characters say and do.
I want you to say this guy's name. Read it now.
Jesus Christ. Conquistador?
Excellent.
Boom.
I love it. All right, Scully's House of Thrillers. Welcome in, bud. Good to see you. So they go, they hire the guy, they get their shit together. He knows somebody's gonna help them out, but the whole time, dude's acting shady as hell. He's worse than Han Solo on the shady part. He's not even
he is very obviously going to do a heel turn.
He is the obvious bad guy. And at the end of that film, he turns on them, and exactly what you expect to happen happens. They get picked up, they get taken in. She miraculously manages to escape and then breaks everybody else out and they run away. But
you can tell he's evil by the fact that he's Scottish, don't you know?
Right? So they beat down homie, the main protagonist, and kill him as far as anyone can tell. And she jumps the very first ship back to Village Planet so she can grow wheat some more. Tells everybody, we've done a good thing. The galaxy's safe. Congratulations. They pat each other on the back. They pat themselves on the back. Everybody's happy and they go home.
And they congratulate themselves for being so diverse and inclusive.
Yep, they did it by the power of diversity, obviously, because the other one white guy that was in the film was also an evil bastard that turned them in. So, yeah.
You know, because a tiny, isolated population would obviously be very ethnically diverse.
Exactly. Now, at the end of the movie, I sat there and I had problems. I had deep quailing issues within the pits of my souls, perhaps even my bowel. I had bet, and I went, no, it's Zack Snyder. He's got the reins of this thing. There, I could see with the ingredients before me, there is the possibility of an absolutely magnificent banger of a film coming out for the second half.
You have more belief in Zack Snyder than I do.
But I was thinking back to the first the prequel trilogies of Star Wars. You know, that first one's kind of lame, the second one's banging as hell, and the third one everyone likes because Vader shows up, right?
Yeah, the thing I always find, and I'm glad you brought up Star Wars, because I think as a director, there's a particular flaw that Zack Snyder shares in common with George Lucas, because they are both really gifted as creators of visual images. And that's the thing they care about. But as far as eliciting good performances from actors on the set, they are useless.
That's not their bag, man.
That's just not their bag.
So I spent a few months there. Every time somebody said something negative about Rebel Moon, I'd go, but wait a second now. We've only got the first installment. You know, you've got to remember the first Lord of the Rings isn't exactly that great. It has a magnificent opening, but then it's kind of just a couple of short guys walking a long way. And, not a whole lot happens in the first movie, but, you're obviously building up to something. And that's kind of how I felt with Rebel Moon. And then we reached the sequel. And bro, I am almost completely this is the guy who turns on him. Look at him. Isn't he obviously an underhanded scoundrel and a dirty bastard? Look how white he
He's
is.
he's
Those blue
he's
eyes.
even got a man bun. And as a guy with a man bun myself, I can tell you all guys with man buns are fucking scoundrels.
Yep, that's true. I try not to man bun until I'm fixing to get into a fight, and then I put my
Well,
man
personally, I have been man bunning since many years before the word man bun was even a thing. So if other people want to start doing their hair the way I do, that's not my problem.
I always ask someone before we get into a scuffle whether or not they've ever had their ass beat by a man with a man bun.
Oh, that's a good one.
They usually immediately step down because there is that possibility that this is fixing to happen, and I do have a man bun. So,
well, and this dude's got a man bun that is perilously close to a top knot.
It's almost a top
it's like
knot.
right at the 45-degree position.
When I was younger, I run the top knot, but we're not going there tonight. That's a totally
Yeah, I'm not going there either.
So this guy turns on him, obviously. I mean, look how evil he looks. They beat down home. The coal-fired freaking a whole bunch of the trash that happened to this movie is basically derived.
No, there were a lot of things successively building up that took me out of the movie, but when the interstellar warp capable starship is running on dudes shoveling coal into boilers, that was it for me. I couldn't take it seriously anymore after that. I just couldn't do it. I'm not that strong.
Joan of Arc, perhaps? Or what exactly where are we going with this scene? I mean,
oh yeah, yeah. Honey, you would look really great with a Joan of Arc haircut. That would make my dick really hard.
Exactly. Well, no, your labia is swell because
yes,
there are no men in Hollywood anymore.
It would make my man labias engorge.
Now, I have noticed something in this particular film that has changed my opinion of Jack Schneider. You see here, he did it all. It's his fault. It's directly his fault. Other people were involved, but Jack Schneider and his family did this abomination of film. Do you know how much? I don't even want to get into how much money.
Well, you know what I said when I saw the credits? I said it took 3 fucking guys to write this screenplay.
No, it took one guy to get it through and the other 2 to actually write it.
Because one of them had been watching Lord of the Rings, one of them had been watching Magnificent Seven, and one of them had been watching it's remarkable. Go ahead.
They went to Google AI and asked them to put together a series of excellent scenes from excellent movies to utilize in the crib noting of this film. And then they basically didn't change anything except for the individuals, the situation, and the basic story. And
yeah,
so,
and Hollywood is in a place of such intellectual impoverishment right now that even when they attempt to make an original story, everything in the original story is just a completely over-the-top knockoff of something that came before.
it's all derivative. Every bit of it's derivative. There is one bit in the second film that I don't know if it's derivative from something else, but I feel like it came straight from The Patriot. I'm almost positive it was a Patriot reference when you look at it. All right, we'll get to that. Hold on. So this planet, we open on the second movie. The second movie, the main honcho is dead. Everything is okay. The ship is gone and probably won't be redeployed to this region again. They'll just have to deal with the next asshole who comes along in one of those big ships. Fine. However, it turns out that super space galactic empires have super space galactic level medicine, and super space galactic asshole lived with a scar.
Yes.
Because they're on some backwater planet getting him fixed. And that's the explanation. He should have been completely new, but no, there's a scar. So the name of the second film is
Scargiver.
Oh my God.
Oh, but wait, we can't quite move on to the second film without talking about the wheat harvest.
Wait, no, that's the opening of the second film. That's
Oh,
the
is it?
beginning. It
Oh
is.
yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right.
That's exactly where we're at. So no bullshit. Counting down 10, 9, 8, 7, all the way to 1. The first hour of this film is Jack Snyder's slow motion grain harvesting. I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating.
We are in a world with interstellar space travel, and we are harvesting wheat with a scythe. And then we're bundling it up into sheaves the old-fashioned way that they would have done it in the 15th century. And here comes the best part. When they've got the sheaves made up, they put them on a levitating grain cart that is being pulled by a horse. I am not making that up.
I am trying to find the cart, bro. I want to show this fucking cart. Wait, is that it? Nope. That's them doing their little come out and go back. No, they're not going to show it. They don't show it in the opening because it's so stupid.
Oh, I wouldn't show it either if I was them. Yeah.
Oh, and no,
I think that was the second thing. It was the levitating grain cart pulled by a horse and the coal-fired interstellar spaceship that took me out of the movie.
Or a planet that has uninvented the concept of a tractor and utilizes nothing involving an internal combustion engine.
Yes. And as we talked about backstage before the show, the filmmakers are shockingly uninterested in how spaceflight actually works.
I'm fine. I'm actually kind of fine with that because sometimes they accidentally create some interesting new way of space travel without really thinking about it. And then the dweebs on Reddit go in and explain how that would work. But
yes, and I know I am certainly pedantic about certain things, but it just bothers me when I know it looks better to have a spaceship arrive at a planet front end first, but if you're actually traveling from one planet to another planet, your spaceship is going to be arriving ass end first because you need to fire your engines to slow the fucking thing down.
And then, Grimm makes an excellent point. Sounds in space, and
he brings in and following on from that, these movies contain another one of my favorite sci-fi tropes, which is big spaceships flying through interstellar space with their engines burning the whole time and big ass flames shooting out the back.
From a coal-fired power plant.
Yes, from a coal-fired power plant, just like the Titanic.
Okay,
we're gonna get to Andromeda with Titanic technology, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you like it?
The very first hour of this film is communist propaganda at its finest. It is absolutely beautiful grain harvesting with hand tools and young people. There are no old people in this village. Obviously, the future is a horrible place where old people don't survive. So there's no real old people in this village. All the young people gather together and they go super freaking maximum effort and they harvest all the grain in time to use it as a shield to keep themselves from being nuked from orbit.
And I feel like if I had a levitating grain cart, I could repurpose that thing into a machine that would harvest that field in no time. I'm just saying.
Just give me the power supply out of that damn thing, and I will completely revolutionize their entire agriculture.
Yeah, how much energy is it taking that cart to levitate? Couldn't you use some of that energy to replace the fucking horse? Are we overthinking this too much?
Oh, it wasn't a horse. It had a mask on. Remember?
A space horse.
Space horse, right? So I don't even know where to go with that one.
I don't think we've seen space horses since the last god awful Star Wars movie.
So we finished the grain harvest. We've got it all together, and they come up with this. They find out that the dude is still alive and he's coming to get her. And so they have a plan. They put this plan together, and unfortunately, they watch Dune. Because
it doesn't help these movies that the main antagonist is Ed Skrein, who is one of my least favorite actors in the entire world. Go ahead.
He's a good guy to hate. You can really dig in on some hate on him. And it's sad because I'm sure he's a perfectly sweet dude in person, except for that whole white.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. But the other thing I mainly remember him from is when he played Dick Best in the Midway movie, and I thought that performance was completely so over the top, cheesy scenery chewing that it almost crossed the line into disrespect of a National War hero.
Yeah, you're not wrong on that. I didn't like that one very much.
Nope.
But anyway, okay, sticking to the plot. We finish our propaganda piece, our communist propaganda piece, and we move into our action battle sequence where they've come up with this secret plan. They've gotten everybody together and they spend some time training these people to utilize different guns and whatnot, which is interesting because later when they actually start using the different guns, it's not the guns they've been trained on, but rather other guns, which, dear God, I'm going to say this out loud, includes a breech loading blaster that is California compliant.
And can I mention that the sequences of the villagers being trained for combat are lifted literally shot for shot from the Magnificent Seven. It's not even subtle.
It's not subtle at all. I mean, angles, lighting, perspective, everything is there. You can do a complete shot-to-shot remake and do it with Lego figurines and have just as much impact on film history. Yeah, somebody watched. But here's their big plan. Their super plan. This is their super plan. They're going to hide in the sand.
Yep.
That's it. But that's
so we're throwing in a dash of Great Escape here too, because they're digging tunnels.
Sure, there's tunnels. They're hiding in the sand. So we got Dune, The Great Escape. We've got just about every major movie.
We have got an ocean of cinema derivativism.
Right. So we get to the final battle. We get to the final battle. Everybody comes out, starts shooting. All of the people start dying left, right, and center. But every single one of the villagers takes out professional soldiers, 8, 10, 20 to 1, all the way down to the main black character. I can't remember. I never can remember his name. Umgupa?
Jimon Hansu.
Shimon Hansu, right. He comes out and
who's an actor I do like very much.
I loved him in Spartacus. I loved him. No, he wasn't in Spartacus.
No, his performance in Amistad, which was I think the first movie he ever did. That is a brilliant performance that any actor would be proud to hang his career on.
He was also in Gladiator, and he did a great job.
Yep, he sure was.
I want to reiterate, I have no complaints over the general acting quality or casting quality of these movies. That's not the issue. The shooting, the editing, all of this is fine, with the exception of the full, distinctly 1 hour propaganda piece at the beginning of the second film. But whatever. The plan, when they realize this guy's still alive, is not to destroy the ship, not to take out the admiral so they have to go home. None of that. They are to hold out.
Yeah.
That's
just
it.
Kick the can down the road.
They're just going to hold out, quote unquote, long enough. Now, I'm not sure if I missed something when watching this movie. It's possible because I did spend a lot of time retching into a bag. So I might have missed a couple of points, but at no point in time was there ever the suggestion that anyone was going to help these people. They were on their own, but their plan, as far as I could tell, and correct me if I'm wrong, from the very beginning was simply to hold them off long enough.
And I don't have a very good understanding of where the fighters came from that saved the day at the end, who arrived at the exact right moment, because of course they do.
So these guys show up. First of all, one of the main issues I have is with this guy. This is a literal Deus Ex Machina.
Oh yeah, my dad and I were talking about this. I was saying, I wonder how much Hopkins got paid just for 1 day of voiceover work for this thing. Because I bet he got paid more than the female lead did. In fact, I would guarantee it.
Bro, homie shows up, goes all freaking John Wick in the middle of this battle that has no dog in this fight. There's no reason he should be there. There's no point in him showing up. There's no point in him defending anyone. But
the only reason the character exists is so that we get some Anthony Hopkins voiceover setups at the start of the movie.
Right. So this thing shows up on the battlefield and turns the tide virtually single-handedly. However, just in the nick of time, the communist sympathizers from other planets all show up, just in time to save the day. They come in, save the planet. She goes in, physically beats down the folks on the inside. There's one scene that I thought could have completely recovered this movie. I would have told everyone to watch it because it's a great comedy, except it didn't happen. In it, our protagonist is kissed by a man. And instead of thanking him or delivering some quippish response or being funny or serious or over the top, nothing, absolutely nothing. There is no response. They just stare at each other for a second and then they go on with what they're doing. He doesn't say for luck. It's not for love. He's not lusty. It's none of that. It's just a quick peck and she allows it to happen and move on. Had she slapped him and said not without consent, it would have saved the whole film. We're talking a multi-billion-dollar project. The third film would have been magnificent.
I agree. If she had done that, I would change my review from thumbs down to thumbs up.
And that's your movie. That's your movie. The communists show up, they save the other communists, and all the communists live happily ever after, apparently.
And my theory, as I told you before, is I think they asked Zack Snyder to make one movie, and he brought him one movie that was about 2.5, 2 3/4 hours long, and they said, you know what? You think we could squeeze 2 movies out of this? Maybe if you took all the stuff that's in 20% slow-mo and made it 80% slow-mo, we could get 2 more hours out of this easy. So there is a lot of runtime in that second movie where absolutely nothing happens.
But yes, it does. Communist propaganda takes place. They show the hammer, the sickle, they drop it on the floor and they bounce. You see the dust bust off.
Oh, and then the very, very overextended wheat harvest sequence, as you mentioned, I think is probably the prototypical example of that.
So we're at that time, bro.
Well, I better talk us out then, hadn't I?
You need to do that thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for joining us here on the Blast for Idiots. We sure do appreciate it when you make us some little small trifling part of your Sunday evening. We will see you next week. Same Curmudgeon Sasquatch time, same Curmudgeon Sasquatch channel. We hope everybody has a great week and a delightful tomorrow and an edifying day after that. We will see you next time. Do not comply. Get off my lawn.
That's all, folks.